I wasn't gonna do a 2020 makeup favorites because I was like, no, there's nothing that I liked in 2020 enough to talk about it. And normally I like to write a script so that I don't go all over the place, but here I am anyway. Next year what I plan to do is make monthly favorites and kind of like compile what I loved, you know, every month, and then like talk about it, if that makes sense. So this is more cohesive. Let's go ahead and get into it. This is gonna be all over the place. I just want to warn you. I don't even have the makeup setting out. I literally have my little thing next to me, and that's what I'm digging my grimy little fingers into. I also can't guarantee that every single thing I'm going to show you is still available, so that will be really fun for you guys. Okay, let's get started, and I'm going to start with lips because that's the top of my drawer. I'd be remiss if I did not talk about the Patrick Ta gloss and the Patrick Ta lip liner. These have just been a favorite since I bought them. I bought them at the end of last year. I asked for a Sephora gift card for Christmas last year and bought these little babies, and I'm so glad I did. I have the lip liner in this shade She's Proud and the lip gloss in this shade She's an Influencer. I wear the lip liner every day. I'm wearing it right now. Even when I'm wearing a mask, if I know that I'm going to take my mask off for even a second to like eat or something, I will literally put on this lip liner. It is, for my skin tone and my lip shade, the like perfect your lips but better shade. I love the shape of it. It has that sloped edge, that thicker type thing. The packaging's pretty, but it's not all about packaging. It's not too smooth, it's not too hard, and it stays for so long. Now, topped with this gloss, that's juicy. It's, you know, a nude base with cute little purpley sparkles in it. Goes perfect with the lip liner. And because we were wearing masks, that's really the only lip product that I have to talk about because I haven't really worn anything else. So these two products, without a doubt, were my favorite. They're really, really pretty. And I think I always say, like, if you only have $50 and you want to buy, you know, one thing with that $50, buy this lip gloss and that lip liner. So in terms of like 2020, I have two foundations I want to talk about. One of them is not a new to me foundation. It's one I've had for a long time, but it's one that I've worn a lot. And that is the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. I've just found that I've gravitated towards this more this year than I ever have. And I think part of it is because you can use it with your fingers, you can use it with a brush, you can use it with a sponge. It's pretty versatile. I don't know what the shade range is like. I know Bare Minerals is pretty good with shade ranges, but for this specific product, I'm really not sure. I'm in the shade Vanilla 02. And I will say, I have oily skin, and I've struggled with oily skin in the past, and I have found that this works for me. It does give like a pearlescent glow, but I find if I set it with a powder, doesn't slip and slide all around. It's not mask friendly, like you're not gonna put a mask on and it's gonna still be there, but I don't really mind that because, you know, I just don't really care about that. So this has been my most worn, but in terms of one that I discovered this year is the Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear. This is good. I didn't expect to love this as much as I did. It's a natural finish, it's not matte, and it's not dewy, so it's perfect if you have in between skin, dry skin. It's good for everyone. And I just find that it looks so good and it lasts so well, and it's pretty full coverage without looking like a mask because I'm not really into that. I find that this is a good foundation for like any scenario, whether it's work or, I mean, not that I was going to events, but like I would wear this to an event if I was going to one. It's just good. It's just a good foundation. I'll definitely repurchase it when I'm out. My lights lacquer's here. I saw the mailman. Anyway, so yeah, this is one that I discovered in 2020. Thoroughly enjoyed. Highly recommend. And it's affordable. I'm in the shade 415, and I have a self-tan shade too. My self-tan shade is 465. Not my shade today. I probably should have talked about primer first since primer goes on before foundation, but I'm talking about it now. And I don't know, I feel like, again, I have one that I used have one that I started using in 2020 and one that I've had for a while. So I'm just going to talk about the one that I discovered in 2020. This is pretty new to me. I am really behind on my Ipsy unbaggings, so I swear I'm going to do one next month. I just didn't get to it this month. I had COVID. But I got this in my Ipsy bag. It's from Tula. It's the Face Filter Blurring and Moisturizing Primer. I'm wearing it today. You can wear this on its own. It's tinted, so I like to shake it up. And it's weird because it really is blurring and moisturizing. It gives you that blurred look without the silicone-y, like mattifying feel. And it's really thin, so it glides all over your face really easily. And it does have a slight tint, so you can wear this without makeup. You can wear it on its own or just the little concealer or whatever. I feel like I cannot get my camera right. I really like this. There's not much more I can say about it. It inspired me to try more Tula products, and I've been using Tula skincare and I've been really impressed. Their stuff is pricey, but as far as I can tell, it's definitely worth the price. I have two concealers to talk about. My pretty much everyday, but you can also wear it for special times and whatever. The Milani Conceal and Perfect. I've talked about this before. I love it. It's such a good concealer. It's a really thick formula, but it's not drying. It doesn't look heavy under the eyes. It just looks so good. You can apply it with your fingers. You can apply it with a brush. You can apply it with a sponge. Doesn't really matter. It is basically the perfect formula of concealer. I love it so much. I think it really is perfect. And you can wear it as foundation as well. I do prefer this as more of an under eye concealer. And then a rediscovery of mine has been the Glossier Stretch Concealer, which I prefer to wear as a foundation, but I'm talking about it because it's a concealer. I love this because it really does stretch. Like, you put it on your skin and it just, that's the only way I can describe it. It's not emulsing it, but it's not sticky. My favorite way to apply it is using this Heavenly Luxe, like, two-sided It Cosmetics brush from Ulta. They call it the number 7. And I literally take it and go like this and just tap it onto the skin. And I find that it's not full coverage at all. There's not a whole lot of coverage to this, but a little bit goes such a long way to provide a light to medium coverage all over the face. This does move around. This is slippy. I think if you're very, very oily, you're not gonna like this because it does give you what I like to call the greasy turkey skin, you know, that glistening, really, really intense look. But I like that. It's not mask friendly, but it's so easy to reapply that you can just put it in your purse, and then if you want to reapply, use that brush or whatever. I'm the shade G11 and it's basically a perfect match. So good. This is such a good concealer. I love it so much. My favorite of the year, and you can tell it is the Catrice Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Setting Spray. I'm wearing it right now. It sets in your makeup so beautifully. It melds any powders, the foundation, anything. If you look heavy at all, this will fix it. It's so, so pretty. You do have to shake it up because it has little itty bitty fine particles of shimmer. But it's so good. I love it. Taylor Wynn talks about this, and there's a reason that she talks about it. It's just so good. It's so, so good. And you can also use it as a primer. This is the illuminating one. I haven't tried any of the other ones, but it is a smaller bottle, but it's affordable. It's lasted me a really long time. So I can't recommend it enough. I really like this setting spray. And it's basically, aside from like the all-nighter, the only one that I can see myself repurchasing. Okay, let's talk about face powders, because for me, this is the year that I discovered that I really don't like powders in a pan. I prefer loose setting powders. So I want to talk about one that I discovered this year and one that I've been using for a long time. So the one that I discovered this year was the Ciate Extraordinary Translucent Powder. It's exactly what it says it is. It's just one of those white translucent powders. It's super, super finely milled. It feels like nothing on the skin, and it looks so good. It blurs your pores. It makes all of your under eye lines go away. It's just like one of the best powders I've ever tried. Now, the downside to this powder is I think it only comes in one shade, and I also think it's been discontinued because every time I try to link it, I can't find it. So The other powder that I've used forever, for years, I've been using it and I still continue to use it, and when I run out, I will buy a new one. Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder. Now, the best part about this powder is the fact that it comes in multiple shades, because at the end of the day, translucent is a good idea, but when those powders were developed, I don't think they were developed with deeper skin tones in mind, because they can give you that like white chalky look if you are deeper than a medium skin tone. So something like this that comes in a deep dark, I think medium, like it comes in multiple shades, is really, really nice. And it doesn't have a lot of pigment, so you're not going to be like, it doesn't have to be a perfect match, but just the fact that they have multiple shades is really, really nice. I'm obviously in translucent light and I've used a ton of it. I love this powder and I've loved it for a long time. I'll continue to repurchase it because it's just my favorite. I don't know. It is the perfect setting powder. What can I say? For bronzer, this was really hard for me to choose because I only have one. I only have 3 bronzers. So I just went with the one that I've used the most. And if I'm talking about products that I've used the most, the Marc Jacobs Tantastic Bronzer, it has to win out. I've used it so much. It's the perfect shade for my skin tone and maybe a little bit deeper, but obviously there's not a lot of shades in this, which really, really sucks. But I think if you can find your shade, you get a huge pan. The value for the money is great. I think this is over $50, but I find it well worth the price. It's been on sale, but it's also been sold out. I really hope it's not getting discontinued. I would hate that. But you just smooth it on. It looks so nice. I can't even say enough good things about this bronzer. I really, really like it. And I'm very picky with bronzer. Even though it is matte, it doesn't look matte on the skin. It gives you kind of a just moisturized look. And I think it's because the formula is just such a soft touch formula. So I was trying to come up with a favorite single blush and I really didn't have any. I was going through my collection and there's just not one that stands out, but there were 2 face palettes that stand out, so I'll talk about those. This is the Lovecraft Beauty palette. It doesn't have a specific name, but it does say that the shades are Althea, Delphine, and Osalia, and I've used these a lot. They're really, really pretty bronzer shades. You have a cool, or bronzer, blush. You have a really pretty cool tone, a peachy, and then a little bit of a deeper pink. These look so good on the skin. They kind of just melt into the skin. They are buildable, but I think if you are a deeper skin tone, you'd have to find a palette that is a little bit darker. And I'm not super familiar with this brand, so I'm hoping that they have a good shade range, but they are an indie brand, and I know that that can be an issue. But I just had to mention it because I was really, really impressed with the quality of this palette. I got it in an Ipsy bag a while ago, and I've still continued to use it, and it's my most used blushes that I own, along with the e.l.f. Total Face palette, which is only, like, if you can only use this if you're pale. But I wanted to mention it because I really like the blush shades. I like the bronzer and the highlight too. I can use every shade in this palette, and it's the thing that I take with me when I travel. If I am throwing something in a bag, I always take this with me because I have my highlighter, bronzer, and my blushes, and I'm good to go. So really love this. I think it's really nice, but obviously if you're not pale, this won't work for you, which is disappointing, but just have to mention that because I didn't create it, but I like it, so I want to talk about it. And to be fair, for face palettes, I feel like face palettes are always marketed towards like medium skin tones, and it's really rare to find a palette that is completely pale girl friendly, like every single shade you can use. So are we going to talk about eyeshadows now? This is really hard, okay? I'm looking down and I think I'm going to talk about 4, which is a lot. I have one more face palette I want to talk about. I didn't talk about highlights. So for highlight, I have to talk about this, okay? It's the Nicole palette. This came out during quarantine and I snatched it up and I'm so glad I did. I love these so much. I use every single shade in here. They're intense. So be warned. Where's my phone? Only use this if you like intense highlighter shades. Otherwise, don't use it. But I think that this could fit a variety of different skin tones, because even though these have pigment. There's not a whole lot of back pigment. I find I can wear all the shades just fine and you can't really tell that there's pigment to them. You just see a really, really glossy glow. So I got them all over my hands. This is the only glow kit I still own, and it's the only one I need. So if this does come out again, because I don't think it's still out, highly recommend. I'm going to talk about my 2 favorite everyday palettes, and then I want to talk about my 2 special palettes, okay? So for everyday, pale girl friendly, I have the Aether Beauty Rose Quartz Gemstone palette. This brand does have other eyeshadows, so don't get discouraged seeing this if you are of a deeper skin tone or if you don't like these shades. They've come out with a variety of shades and all of them are pretty. I want all of them, but this is the only one I have. You're probably looking at this and thinking, wow, this is the most boring palette I've ever seen. And you could be right, but I don't care because it looks so pretty on the eyes. Every single shade in here is perfect. The shimmers aren't super packed with glitter. They really are just like a shimmery formula. They kind of just reflect on the eyes. The mattes are buildable. They're not, you know, one stop super pigmented, which I like for this color scheme because since they are cool tones, they can get muddy so fast. So this allows you to build slowly as opposed to just like wha-bam on the eyes. But it's just a pretty palette. I don't know what to say. It's like very romantic. It gives me like Valentine's Day in Paris vibes. I don't know. I feel like that's stupid, but that's how I feel when I look at this. So I really love that palette. I bought it last year and I still love it so much. My other everyday palette, my baby, is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I know they're expensive, but this one in particular is so well worth it if you like the shades. This is like my warm toned queen. That one is my cool tone queen. This is my warm tone queen. And as you can see, it's really well loved. I do love that it has pops of color with the blues, but the shining star in the palette is definitely all the golds and browns. And I know you're thinking that a lot of these shades look the same. And while I agree that like these two look very similar and like these 2 golds look similar, I still think that they're unique enough to justify the colors that are in here because each one has its own different formula. And Natasha Denona shadows are so pigmented that you can tell the difference between like certain brown tones. Like if I put that on my eyes and that on top, you can tell a distinct difference between the 2. So I really love this palette. She also has a variety of palettes, and I don't know, this is my second one. I had the Star palette and I wasn't in love with the formula of that. I liked it, but I didn't love it. This I loved. I love the formula. Everything about it is just perfect. And I'll continue to beat it the hell up. So I wanted to give a special nod to 2 palettes that released this year that I haven't used that much, but I wanted to just mention them because they were releases that were really exciting to me that I just really wanted. And the first one is, of course, the Sailor Moon palette from ColourPop, and I just loved this palette so much. The colors in here are like the perfect spring tones. That's why I haven't worn it in a long time. That is a ColourPoppy shadow, and it looks so good. I love everything about this. I wish that they would bring it back like with the blushes and everything because I wanted the whole collection, but I could only snag this. But I just look at this and I'm happy. And I think sometimes that's what you need. You just look at something and you're like, you make me happy. And that's how I feel about this palette. So I'm not going to talk about it too much because I haven't used it that much. And then lastly in eyeshadows, I was really excited to see Bailey bring out a collab with an eyeshadow brand. And while these colors aren't necessarily like, not all of them scream me to me, I still liked it and I felt like the quality of these shadows were so good. I've never tried this brand, but the quality was so good. I think I tried them in a video or like on Instagram or something. And I will say eyeshadow primer is like a must, and you just have to be kind of careful with these deeper shades because they don't blend as well as some of the shades down here. This whole bottom row I love. I can not live without. And I love these bigger pans because you can use that as blush, you could use that as blush, you could use that as blush or bronzer, that as bronzer. So it's a multifaceted palette, but ultimately I was just really excited to see Bailey come out with a collab with a brand, and I can't wait. I'm actually wearing her nail collab as well, the Aqua Tofana collab. I can't wait to see what else she does with certain brands. But if this ever comes back, I think if you like the colors, you'll definitely like this palette. All right, I think the next things are gonna be pretty boring, so I've saved them for last. I started watching Robert Welsh, and in his videos he talked about eyeshadow primer, and I was always someone that used concealer, foundation, and I never really thought anything about it. But he is a professional makeup artist, and he was urging people to stop doing that and to start using eyeshadow primer. And in my mind I was like, you're so fucking stupid, what do you know? He knows a lot. So I actually just picked up on a whim this LA Girl Pro Primer. It was like $3 at Ulta, and I've ended up loving it. I was very skeptical when I first used it because if you are someone that traditionally uses concealer, this is a little weird because it's definitely a drier formula and it's something that you just kind of have to adjust to. But I just pop it on my eyes, blend it out with my finger, and eyeshadows, I don't have any problems with skipping. Eyeshadow formulas that I previously wasn't a fan of because I felt like they always skipped on the eyes, I don't have that issue. My eyeshadow lasts longer. I find that shimmers last longer. I have less fallout. I could go on. And I don't set my eyeshadow primer. I put it on and go in directly with eyeshadow, and it has changed the way I feel about doing eyeshadow. And I now can say with confidence, like when I'm reviewing palettes or when I'm using palettes, if a palette doesn't work, I know that it's the palette and it's not because of the method that I used. So if you have any issues with eyeshadows, or if you're a beginner, I urge you, do not use concealer on your eyelids. Use an eyeshadow primer. It changes everything. Lastly, I'm going to talk about brow products because I have nailed down what I like, and I haven't strayed from it. So I really like, most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, I just go in with a tinted eyebrow gel. I love Glossier Boy Brow, but it's expensive and it doesn't last very long. So I've started using the Revolution Pro, and I use the shade Ash Brown, and I like this just as much as I like Boy Brow, if not a little bit more. It doesn't get gloopy the way Boy Brow does. It's all I'm wearing in my brows today, and I really like it. It's a really nice brow gel, a really nice tinted brow gel. I don't have much to say about it. It's a small little wand, just like Boy Brow, but it's not as thick. It's a thin formula, so I do find I have to like let the excess drip off, but I really like it. I don't have anything else to say. It's really good, and I think if you like brow gels, tinted brow gels, I recommend that over anything else I've tried. But for eyebrow pencils, I don't think at this point I'll ever stray away from the Anastasia Brow Wiz because it provides me exactly what I need 100% of the time. I'm in the shade medium brown, and I'm not going to talk about it forever because you've heard it, but I'm someone, if I can find something cheaper that works the same, I will obviously get that. But there's nothing like this on the market at the drugstore. There's just not. Any dupe that someone has said, I've tried it and it's not the same, so I would rather go for the OG. Okay, I do want to talk about perfumes last, and then I think that's it. I don't have anything else I want to talk about, but I do want to talk about perfume. So I can't not talk about these. The Ariana Grande perfumes. I have Cloud and REM. I know we shit talk celebrity perfumes, but like these are perfect. This one, it's a little bit fresher. I can't smell. I still can't smell or taste from COVID, and I'm trying to describe these. Now this one smells like lush, sleepy with a hint of vanilla. Like you just drop a little vanilla in there and maybe a little bit of a caramel frappuccino. That's what this smells like. This, go follow Tyne and Sinks. I think it's Tyne and Sinks or Tyne and Buck. He does the Smell You Later podcast. Go follow him. He describes this perfectly. It's one of his favorite perfumes, and every perfume that he likes I have to buy. And this one, it's so good. Both of the Ariana Grande perfumes are so good. I do plan on buying full sizes when I'm out of them. And they've definitely been my perfumes of the year. So, I don't have anything else to say. This is newer, but I had to talk about it. The Replica by the Fireplace is so good. This is my at-home cozy perfume. And it does smell like being by the fireplace. It's musky but sweet, and it's heavy and it's syrupy, and you just it's a statement. Like it's not a perfume for the lighthearted. It's not a Glossier You or like a Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. Like it is like, it has body to it, and I like that. I prefer scents that make a little bit of a statement. This makes a statement. It's the perfect wintertime fragrance. I could not wear this in the summer because I feel like this paired with sweat would be a mess. But this in the wintertime, especially when you're just cozying up at home, perfection. Perfection. It's expensive. This rollerball was like $30 or $40, but I would 100% pay money for the bigger size because it's just immaculate. I love it. Alright guys, that's it for my 2020 favorites. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!